All right. Well, hopefully it'll work a little bit better this time. Kind of get an eye on it on the side over here, and
Yeah.
looks like it's
Has it come through yet?
the video's through. I have not seen any glitches yet, so
Okay.
keep your fingers crossed there.
I haven't seen it come through on Twitter. Oh, here it is. Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, it definitely looks better now.
Yeah. I don't know. Not sure what the deal was, but but now we've got people. Hopefully we got people back in here. Hopefully didn't lose them on our first one here. But we'll do another intro, I guess. This is episode 0 of Levi and Jared's currently Untitled podcast. If you guys got if you have any good nicknames for our podcast, feel free to submit such. But I'm Levi Stevenson with Wide Right Natty Light. You guys probably know me by now. And I'm joined by Jared Stansbury from Cyclone Fanatic.
What's up, y'all? Said this on our first attempt at the stream. Haven't played Madden in a while. Probably gonna get my ass kicked. I'm fully aware, so you guys don't even need to roast me. I'll roast myself playing.
So the general idea here, we're gonna start off obviously playing Madden, kind of as our basis going forward. But one thing that we kind of wanted to do differently with this, first just kind of another gaming stream, is to we had a kind of an interesting format in mind where we would have some more. Mark Atkins already chiming in, predicting a Jared win 17-14.
Yeah, I'm gonna control the ball, so that sounds maybe realistic.
There you go. But generally, we wanted to do. I mean, obviously, we talk about Iowa State stuff all the time, just given the nature of our sites. So, like, if people have questions or whatever that they want to throw in the chat, Iowa State related questions, we're more than happy to answer those, and we'll do our best with that stuff. But what we wanted to do was do something a little bit different because there's just tons and tons of sports podcasts. There's nothing going on right now, so right now everybody's pretty much getting every little bit of Iowa State info that they can possibly get right now. So we wanted to do something a little bit different, and our general format that we kind of had an idea for, and we're sort of still tweaking it a little bit, just to see what kind of looks like, is we kind of wanted to try to figure out the best way to intro this topic here, Jared, is or introduce our concept.
Yeah.
Essentially, we wanted to be able to have a discussion, have different debates about general sports stuff, but and other things going around, movies, current events, whatever. But we wanted it to be a little bit more engaging, and instead of doing LeBron, who's better, LeBron or Jordan, we're going to talk about more. I don't know if you want to call it a hopeless case, or saying make a more difficult argument.
Right.
Like one example was a couple years ago, right after I started with Wide Right. I wrote an art. Shit. Oh, he dropped it.
Come on, Marcus. It's your old team, bro.
A couple years ago, I apologize for my scattered thoughts. I'm trying to play Madden. But basically, I argued that Abdul Nader was actually the better transfer rather than DeAndre Kane, which I realize on its face seems it seems like a completely insane proposition. But the whole point of it was, essentially to have a more interesting topic of conversation than just debating the closely contested ones. I know it's kind of an abstract concept at the moment, but we want to take on those arguments and argue for things that are maybe an uncommon or an unpopular opinion, and kind of make a case for them. Play the devil's advocate, if you will. That is currently a name in the clubhouse for the name of the podcast, is the devil's advocate.
basically we want to take things that might be universally loved, universally hated, outside of obvious things. Like, no one's going to come on here and, try and defend, like, white supremacy.
Yeah.
Did he catch that with one hand?
Yes, he did. Woo! No. But yeah, we're not gonna defend something like totally gross. Yeah, like we're not gonna defend Nazis or anything like that. But anything that's got an interesting angle to it that like people don't think of, or it's an uncommonly heard thing. We want to get after that. Like Jared's heinous opinion of Iowa State's gold uniforms, which he apparently has ranked as the 5th greatest Iowa State uniforms of all time, which is absurd. He dropped that?
Yeah.
He's Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, no, I read Jared's article today, and I got a lot of respect for Jared, but that was one of the dumbest things I've ever read in my entire life.
And he put the Jack Trice throwbacks like super low.
Yeah. It's different, Jared. Yeah, my roommate Scott's here too, so he might chime in every once in a while. No, different, Jared.
But yeah, so it's things like that. So it's some episodes it might be me or Jared posing an argument against the other one. Some days, sometimes if a listener has a topic they want Jared and I to go after, we certainly want to get interaction as far as that goes. It's meant to be discussion. It's meant to be informative discussion that inspires further discussion beyond just what we talk about in the podcast. So, we want as much interaction from you guys as we can get.
And I think we should probably say too that there will probably be times where we'll come on and discuss things or argue for something that we might not really even truly personally believe, but it's just like always trying to create some level of conversation. Oh man, I knew that was coming.
Yeah,
too.
And that's the important thing too, is that an argument that we're making, like for example with this Abdul Nader versus DeAndre Kane argument, do I legitimately believe that Abdul Nader was a better transfer than DeAndre Kane? Not really. But putting together a counter argument was really interesting, because if you go through stats, the argument is not as clear cut as you may think it is, and it's if you cherry pick the right stats, there's an argument to be made that Abdul Nader was better than DeAndre Kane. So it's stuff like that. Obviously, I know the entire concept may seem a bit abstract right now. I promise it'll make a little bit more sense as we kind of get into these types of things. Oh, you son of a... I shouldn't... See, I don't know why I didn't play that.
I know better than to get tackled as a quarterback, too.
Yeah, that was real dumb. I'm not sure why I did that. Because Madden apparently believes that all quarterbacks will fumble every time.
Literally every single time if they get touched. Oh, man. Come on, can you guys block? Oh. They're going to see people out there might see a side of me that they didn't know existed.
Oh, there's a 100% chance we end up dropping some profane language. Or at least me. I have a potty mouth, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think full well that I do as well.
Yeah. We all do. Mine. Oh! It's the same guy.
And I knew that he was sitting there, too. I thought that I could throw it over him.
Actually, one thing that might be worth discussing already, actually, as an early episode topic, is the name, image, likeness stuff from the NCAA.
Yeah.
It was just kind of general guidelines right now, but it's really interesting because it opens up players to get local sponsorships and things like that, which is good. I mean, that's the general thing is you want players to be able to profit off their own names. But there's they call them guardrails essentially, but it's essentially trying to kind of funnel the overall scope of the legislation. Oh man, that's a lot of space. Fuck you, Earl Thomas. I'm not getting hit by Earl Thomas.
Mahomes taking me for 30 yards off the edge. Love it.
But one thing that's worth noting, or that seems like it is kind of where it's at, is that oh my god, the current structure of their extra rules essentially right now sort of limits a video game because there's no group licensing included. So which, as it currently stands, the players would not be able to actually pair up their likenesses with their schools, which is what you would need to do to make a NCAA football video game happen. Now there's a lot of stuff that's it's an RPO, son of a gun. There's a lot of stuff that's going to have to happen between what they announced today and when this finally gets passed, because it was essentially just guidelines that were talked about today, and then they got to write up all the legislation and actually propose some actual rules.
Yeah, I mean, it should be so easy now for the NCAA because there's been so much conversation about so many of these things. It should be so easy on some of this stuff for the NCAA to just come out and, man, like do something that people have already thrown out there, or even take some of those ideas that have already been thrown out there and just roll with them. But the NCAA has a history of way overthinking everything.
Yeah.
And it's super annoying.
Well, and there's a couple different things you can do here. You follow the Olympic model. You can, I don't know, it seems like they've got kind of an odd thing going here that I'm not 100% sure exactly how where they came up with their stuff. I mean, without going through all the individual stipulations, I think they're on the right track, but it's far more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I do know that one thing they were talking about as the hurdle for the video game, like it says, the group licensing, and you can skip that step if the players have somebody that can negotiate on their behalf. Well, there is no players union in college, as of right now, anyways.
Well, and that's like don't get me wrong. I know how tough a lot of this stuff probably is. So,
yeah.
And obviously it's completely unprecedented.
Yeah.
So it's just it's not an easy thing. We're just gonna do this, Yeah. But I feel like there's been so many different times where people have thrown out ideas or there's so many other things that they could potentially follow, and yet they still feel like they need to do come up with their own way of doing it. And it's why?
Yeah, people have already thought about this. There's no reason to make it more complicated than it needs to be.
And I refuse to believe, too, that there's nobody at the NCAA that hasn't thought about these things. They had to have thought about them. I mean, they've seen the writing on the wall for however long.
Oh, yeah.
At least I would think that they have.
It's not a new issue where it's oh, man, this is just something that's here now. It's well, no. You've known about this for basically since the Ed O'Bannon thing came around. Yeah. So, a decade ago.
And that was my thing, with the video game. That seems like a no-brainer to me. That should have been one of the first pieces of the legislation that's all right, this is an easy way for us to make sure that everybody who plays college football is going to get something, and then you can't talk about the idea of people being excluded or things like that. I mean, obviously there's, damn, that was on me too. There's obviously a lot of variables to that, but it's if you have someone that's going to negotiate for you or something like that, or even if you just have some sort of set way of going about it where the players are always going to get this X amount from the sales of the game, and then it's going to be distributed,
Right.
in this way. And if, in that instance, like if, say, Trevor Lawrence, if it was this next season, if Trevor Lawrence is going to be on the cover of the game, well, then Trevor Lawrence is going to make more, but that's just because Trevor Lawrence is on the cover of the game, and it's not. I mean, that wouldn't be that much different than if it was just like Madden.
Right. Or if it was just like it used to be, because they only used to ever put graduated seniors on the cover, so they were going to make it anyways.
Yeah.
But the thing too about this is that, so the way I would approach this if I were EA or whoever, if I were 2K, I mean, you send a packet of 90 forms over and say, we will pay you whatever, $500, $1,000, or whatever it is. We'll pay you $1,000 if we can use you in this game. That's it. And you take it or leave it. 99.9% of players are going to take that deal because they're like, hell yeah, I'm going to be in a video game. Not just a video game, but the sports video game. And you're going to be, I mean, you'd be part of the most talked about sports video game in 2 decades or longer, maybe ever.
Yeah, I think too, even like with that, that's where EA messed up by putting people from past teams and things like that into the game, where
if they had just left current players with the strong safety number 9, if they had just left it at that, nobody would have said a thing.
Yeah, it's when you're putting the game out and you've got Ed O'Bannon, who played basketball 20 years ago, or
at UCLA,
at that time, probably closer to 15 years ago, on his past UCLA team, and you're using these past teams, that's when you're creating a problem for yourself, like from my point of view.
I mean, I see what they were doing. They got a little greedy, basically.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that they were probably trying to find ways to like make the game better, but it's like, come on, man, throw the ball away. They're trying to make the game better and things like that, but at some point you kind of got to just look at it and it's like, we're kind of hamstrung by what we can do here. Let's just keep trying to make the product that we know we can continue to make better. And they didn't really do that. They just started looking for ways to incorporate more and more people, which is problematic.
Yeah. And especially too when you get to the historic teams, a lot of those guys are nobodies. You could have acquired rights to those guys. Like if they had acquired the rights to use Ed O'Bannon or to use the likenesses of those historic teams, they probably wouldn't have asked a super steep price, and you would have already taken care of that issue, and you don't have to deal with this later.
Right. And this is not going well.
Oh, I missed Tyreek Hill.
Ooh, come on, catch the ball. Don't knock it down. Definitely missed Tyreek Hill. That should have been a touchdown.
Yes, yep. I accept and I own that mistake.
Don't start looking at the clock. Don't start thinking about, hey, just take care of the football. Keep attacking. Usually the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the NCAA thing, it really does just come down to, for me, it comes down to, let's not try and overthink this. Let's just try and do something that is going to benefit most everyone. There's probably not a way that we can put something out there that's going to benefit literally everybody, but let's try and figure out a way to benefit most of the people that are going to play the major sports and things like that. And then
well, and that's another issue too, is that it is wildly disproportionately going to impact football and men's basketball.
Yeah.
In very few select markets, you'll see women's UConn and Notre Dame and stuff like that might have some success on the women's front, but most of those aren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and someone who Sabrina Ionescu, obviously she could go and could make some money.
Individual players for sure.
Yeah, but in the general sense, most women's college basketball players probably aren't going to be able to, and that's where. I understand you want to create opportunities for other people, and I'm not trying to say that those people shouldn't have opportunities or anything like that, but it's how much, if we're being realistic, the people who are going to have those opportunities the most are those football players and those
Right.
men's basketball players. So it's like, how do you weigh that? You know, how do we make it to where we know like we're going to be fair to everybody, but we're going to help out the people who probably are going to have the most opportunities as well? And like, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Well, and part of it too, in the part of this.
I was just saying, that better not be a fumble.
With the name, image, and likeness stuff too, is that what it sort of sneakily does too, is it completely takes the spotlight off of the actually paying the players, like it actually paying athletes discussion. It completely takes it away from that, because now nobody's going to even really think about that anymore. Because
Right.
like that issue probably just got put on the back burner for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's a far more complicated thing to do than the name, image, likeness thing, where you have to actually enable payment of people versus the name, image, and likeness stuff, which is essentially freeing something up. So you're not redirecting capital. You're just allowing players to take advantage of something that they couldn't before.
Yeah, really, you're just creating a new market. Like,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh, that guy again.
Man, come on. That was stupid.
Well, the thing is, you're relieving a restriction as opposed to adding expenses, which is two very, very, very different things.
Yeah, and that kind of, it just like leaves it up to, you know, for the most part, individual businesses. It's like, how do you want to spend your money, you know?
Yep.
And if they feel like the best way they can spend their money is by getting, you know, George Niang or whoever, like, to come and try and sell their trucks and, you know, in a commercial, then more power to them.
Let him go. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, more power to them. And I think too, and I talked to Steph Copley about this on our Title IX podcast, not this week but last week, where, I mean, you look at like this Iowa State basketball team right now. Sure, some of those guys probably could go and sign autographs and things like that.
Sure.
Some places, but like Wilson Toyota's not going to go and be like, man, we need to get Solomon Young in here.
Yeah.
To do a TV commercial, and that's nothing against Solomon. It's just, you know.
Yeah. What kind of bang for their buck are they going to get out of that?
Yeah, it's like a lot of times. Oh man. A lot of times there probably might not be a guy on the team that it's even worth really spending the money to try and go and get.
Right.
And like that's, I think it'll be interesting to just see how that kind of stuff will work itself out, because there's just so many dynamics to it. And then how do you know, truly like keep the donors and stuff like that out of it, you know?
Right.
Like, do you make it where if someone sponsors the school, then sponsors the school's athletic programs, then they can't use the kids, or like that to me is like another one of the questions. Because like, what would keep people in Kentucky, you know, where if you own a car dealership and then they're like, oh, if you come here, then automatically we're going to get you a commercial deal with this school.
Well, that's kind of the thing too, is I think this will it'll impact schools differently than I think most people think it will. In that, like Alabama is not going to get a substantial boost from this because they're Alabama, and Ohio State is Ohio State. But you have the teams. The first one I thought of was Nebraska. Oh shit! I forgot to use my last time out. Is Nebraska, where you're in Lincoln, which is Lincoln, Omaha, which is a decent sized market for what we're talking about. They're not out on a coast, and they're the only game in town.
Yeah.
So they can you know, the dealerships and the, you know, whoever else, they'll have some free cash to burn. They're the only game in town, and Nebraska fans will pay money to see their players on TV.
And that's why I think too, like, I don't know if you ever saw this, because it happened literally the day that that we left for the Big 12 tournament, but the Nebraska has been really hard on getting out in front of this thing, and they signed a deal with a company who's actually it was actually created by a former Nebraska football player named Blake Lawrence, that basically works with athletes to do endorsement deals. And it has kind of all been built up to eventually get to where, you know, this is like what they're doing. and they signed a deal with them right then, preparing for when this rule might eventually pass.
Yeah,
And
having infrastructure in place already.
yeah, and I thought that was like a really good way for them to be proactive because, like you mentioned, like they are going to be one of the ones who are most affected by this. And
It could honestly, it could be beneficial for Iowa State too, because like I said, Iowa State is the only game around here, so any businesses in Des Moines will be there for it. There's some good sized businesses around the Ames area that will pay to have Brock Purdy in a commercial, or or Brees Hall or whoever. They'll pay to have those guys in a commercial.
like I can't think of a really good like. Gosh,
what?
I can't think of a really good like. Necessarily like the one that sticks out to me like in Des Moines is the front row which is the Hawkeye Bar,
Yeah.
And it's like if they could get Jordan Bohannon to come down and do a 30-second advertisement for them or something like that, like to them that would be valuable, and they would probably view it as something that's like, man, we're helping out a Hawkeye and like that and all that kind of stuff, like I said, I can't think of like a really great Iowa State pure example.
Well, it wouldn't even necessarily have to be. Wouldn't have to Wilson Toyota would pay decent money to get Brock Purdy in there. I'm thinking of like Wells Fargo Arena could use some players like if they're a good example is if. Well, actually, I'm not sure because part of the rules say that you can't wear. They can't wear any Iowa State, like they can't wear any school apparel in their things. And I don't know if that is truly just visual or if it's or if like I'm thinking of like if they did the Hy-Vee Classic again or whatever. Like, could you put basketball players from each of the four and have them in the commercial talking and stuff like that?
I would think you probably could. Like, could they say?
They can't wear Iowa State logos, and they can't say Iowa State. But they can say, come to the Big Four Classic to watch me play, or something. You missed an extra point, though.
I know.
What's funny, though, is the way you have your camera set up, is that as soon as you put your head down there in shame, your whole camera blurred out.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it did. That'll be interesting to know, because it's like, how many of those guys then, it's the Hy-Vee Classic or whatever, and you put them up there. How many people, like, just watching TV, that's just the average person, is going to know, like, oh, yeah, that's, Liam Robbins from Drake or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he doesn't play there anymore. But
Of that is simply execution.
And actually, it actually might be a worthwhile. It could be one of our topics on here. Is when you talk about the argument for actually paying players. At least on social media, it seems like beyond just the name, image, and likeness, the consensus of public opinion is that players should be paid. So, in my opinion, that would kind of qualify for our discussion here. Because I don't think that it is. It's definitely not clear cut. It's a very complicated issue. So maybe we'll do that next week for our first one about paying players. We'll get right into the nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, and I think. Give me that.
Damn.
Go, Tony.
That's not good.
Where you going?
What?
Where is he going? Why did he run out of bounds?
He was scared of Pat.
Oh my gosh. That would be a good one. I actually just from this conversation, I thought I think another good one, and obviously like we're not going to do sports all the time, but the idea of the big schools in Iowa playing against the small schools, I think is another good discussion. Like the pros and cons of that, because I know that there's so many people out there that still, even, I'm sure there's Iowa State fans out there that would like for Iowa State to be playing against Drake and be playing against Northern Iowa. But
not in football. Never want to play Drake again in football. Fuck that.
But in basketball,
yeah.
I loved the Hy-Vee Classic. Like, I always had fun covering it. I think that it's a fun event. But I can see why Iowa State would not want to play that. I can see why Iowa would not want to play in that.
Yeah.
What's the pro for Iowa to be playing in that and lose to Drake? You know, even if you beat Drake, more often than not, like, you're not going to really get anything out of it. You know,
Right.
I've realized that I just need to talk more in order to get you distracted.
Apparently. And that, you know, and that's, yeah, the big school, small school is an interesting one too. Actually, well, and part of the players thing that I'm kind of excited about too is that I actually have done a lot of research for this already. We talked about it on the Down the Pipe, I don't know, year and a half ago now, and really dug into the numbers on it. And so I've kind of got some research already set aside on that one, so that'd be a good one we can get into. That topic, but those are the kind of topics that I want to get into, where like it seems like the unanimous opinion is that we should be paying players an actual, like, a salary, basically like a full-time employee.
Yeah.
And then I or both of us will argue and say no, they shouldn't, and we'll make that argument.
And I knew you were throwing it there too. Yeah, it's such a slippery slope in that sense, where it's like, how are you going to pay? Are you going to pay everybody the same amount? Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, do you pay Brock Purdy the same amount as a cross country runner? Like, I think you'd have to. I mean, you'd get in some serious trouble if you didn't. Throw it away. What are you doing?
Man, my defense is coming up big here.
Yeah, it is.
Making plays for me. Yeah. Obviously, that's just not realistic. You know, like, I know we all want to be fair and things like that, but it's just, I just don't.
For the people that are in the equity camp, that is a very, like, paying players a flat salary across all sports is definitely not an equitable. I guess the equity would come from the name, image, and likeness.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, that's when you start having conversations about cutting sports. Like,
oh yeah, big time.
You'd about have to. Everybody in the country probably would have to.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not just like just Iowa State would have to cut some sports. Like, no, everybody in the country's all of a sudden got to look at themselves and be like, man, is it really even worth it to have? Iowa State doesn't have as many men's sports that would fit this.
Well,
bill, but,
the reason they don't have as many men's sports is because when Title IX came around and they had to restructure for all of that, you lose a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Not to say that Title IX was a bad thing or anything. I'm obviously not saying that.
No, I can understand.
But, we've already dealt with some of this stuff before, and it's not so clear cut. You know, everybody talks about when they make these arguments, they talk about Texas and Alabama, Texas A&M. These schools make all this money or whatever. They can afford to pay players. Like, you got to realize that not very many schools, actually, basically no schools, make money like Texas. Like, they just can't. They can't afford to do that. To do it like that. Not every school has that kind of budget room. Most schools don't. And that's one thing I think gets lost in here is they see that Iowa State brought in $90 million last year, or whatever they brought in, and they say, well, they have $90 million. It's like, well, sort of, but they also have to pay coaches, and and they're building these new facilities, and they've got they've got expenses that need to be taken care of.
And that's where, like, I know Ross Peterson talks about this a lot on the radio. Like, there's a lot of those things at Iowa State, and really every school across the country. Like, there's things out there that they don't really, like, need to be doing, But,
sure.
Like, they do because they have to maintain their nonprofit status and, like, things like that,
Well, that they have to stay competitive.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the facilities wars and all that kind of stuff is just.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a big deal, and they have, like, you have to. In that case, you have to spend money to make money if you in college athletics. That's just the game. Get out of there. Oh, I probably could hit Tyreek there. Oh well.
Probably could have, yeah. Kind of bailed my safety, but luckily you didn't see him. He didn't come up until way later.
But
This game's a lot closer than I expected it to be. To be completely honest.
yeah, I'm not using. I used to use this playbook a lot, and then I went to a different playbook
Gosh,
when I'm playing on my franchises and stuff like that, and I forgot to switch to it.
I swear, this game always tackles people forward. That's the thing that bothers
There's only like 3 or 4 tackle animations in this entire game.
Yeah. Madden might be the laziest, or EA might be the laziest game developer.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They didn't used to be, but
No. No.
just kind of what it is at this point. But like kind of just circle back around. I mean, those types of topics are what we want to talk about, and it's not just sports either. Could be, it could be movies and music and stuff like that too. But we're also, like I said, we talk about sports all the time in our day jobs. So I'm. Oh, what did he stop for? Why did he stop? Tell you what.
Oh man, big drive coming up.
I tell you what.
All right.
But we want to get back. We want to get to the, talk about non-sports topics too, like what's going on in the world. Of course, what's going on in the world right now has kind of been talked into the ground, but
yeah, what's going on in the real world right now at this point? I don't know how much more I even have to say.
Yeah, there's not it's specifically that topic. I'm not sure there really is much more they can get into. So we're not going to get into like that stuff.
No.
But wanted to get into that stuff. I need to start focusing on this game before I lose this shit.
And you read it with your user player too.
Mm-hmm. All right.
They've called his number a lot this afternoon. You wonder how much tread is left on those tires.
We certainly do, but I always think back to one of my favorite coaches in the NFL, and he used to have a meeting with his running backs.
Oh,
there we go.
Too early.
As many times as you're going to carry the ball, you should be able
All right.
I feel like I gotta go for it. I don't know. Like, what are the odds I'm gonna get the ball back?
You know what is interesting though is whenever I do streams and my writers show up and they start shit talking me in the comments. Never fails.
Hey, if you write for Wide Right 90 Light, put the F's in the chat, please.
Ooh! Did he get that?
Pulled my computer off the.
I mean, it didn't matter, but
Willie Snead ran all the way out of bounds. Clown. Gosh. Yeah, put the F's in the chat for me now, please.
all right.
All right. Man. This is high stakes. Oh. I should have had a sack, too. I panicked. The ball.
Jared Larson. Let the record show I was pro Levi from the beginning, despite him hating gold jerseys for football.
Gold jerseys are horrible.
They're not good, man. There's a reason they haven't come back. No. That's right. Inbounds even?
Legitimately just not good.
They're not good. Do I think that they could do some sort of gold jersey and make it good? Yeah. Was that it? No.
I feel like that's just a hard color to, like...
Oh, it is.
Go all out with, you know?
Like, I mean, like, legitimately, who wears... The last team I can think of that wore gold jerseys was Cal when, like, Deshaun Jackson was there.
Yeah, and honestly, like, if you're going to accent it with the blue, it looks a lot better than it does if you're going to accent it with the Cardinal.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to accent it with the Cardinal, and, I mean, you guys know that I'm Cardinal and gold to the bone. But, oh, come on, pick the ball! I'm Cardinal and gold to the bone. But you look like Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, it's not good.
And that, I think that's just reality. I would assume that most people out there are going to agree with me, but just try and as best as we can, we should try and not look like fictional fast food characters.
Or even real ones.
Yeah.
Oh, baby, there it is.
The dagger.
Ooh, hopefully. There's still a lot of time left. There's plenty of time for me to mess this up, man.
Can't throw the ball.
Oh, man, I tell you, I wish we could play the PC college football mod on multiplayer. That's a good time. Actually,
I don't think Madden's gonna run on my MacBook Air from 2017.
no. Well, and you can't even play on. You actually have to be offline to use it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like that's the only way the mod even works. But actually, one thing I am gonna do this weekend, I'll probably stream. They just did an update. So the last update they added Iowa. This past one they added K-State and TCU. So I'll probably play K-State, do a little Farmageddon action. Need to beat them into a pulp. I'm gonna turn pass interference all the way up to 100.
If you can legitimately draw a pass interference call on this game, I will be so incredibly impressed because I don't know that I've ever seen anyone do it.
On a franchise that I'm playing with my friends, we turn them up to 55, and they actually call them when they're supposed to. So I wonder if it's just like if it's at 50, it sucks, but everywhere else it's like. But if you go to 51, then all of a sudden it works right.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that I've never seen it called before.
No.
That was a catch. Come on, man.
Oh, it wasn't. Where's one? Maybe
He got both feet down.
he maybe had 1 foot down.
He had both feet down. I could see it in the replay that was clear across the screen.
Well, I don't know where you learned to count, but that was one.
We need the sideline cam.
No way.
Come on, whoever this guy is. That was not a great job.
Rashad Breeland, he just got arrested the other day.
He did. He just re-signed too.
Why do you have to get in the way, Tyrann Mathieu?
I'd be lying to myself if I thought this was going to end any other way. So.
Well, the nice thing too is we don't have to just play Madden. We can bounce around.
Yeah. What other games do you even have? I haven't even asked you.
For PlayStation right now, I just have this and MLB, the show.
Oh, you got MLB The Show?
Yeah, I'll play the show.
Oh, we're done then. Yeah, we're good.
I'm not good at the show.
Dude, that one is so much easier to sit and talk during too.
Oh yeah. No.
Man, why are you going out of bounds? Come on.
I'm not trying to.
Yeah, dude. Sometime we'll have to get Sean Roberts on here on a guest host, and he'll play MLB The Show with us. There was one day I played.
Oh my God.
Him and Emery Songer both play MLB The Show. Did he get him? Oh, thank goodness. And there was one day where I beat Sean. I threw like a one hitter, beat him like 2-0. And I played 2 games against Emery, and I didn't give up a hit for like 18 straight innings between the two of them. And that was a fun day. Might have been the greatest day I've ever had playing video games online.
Last time I played MLB, we've streamed it exactly once because I played.
Man, you're just trying to run it up on me.
I'm literally running the ball.
Yeah, we're getting in a fight, bro.
Okay, Baylor. Okay. But I played Matthias, and it did not go well. We played 2 or 3 games, and I'm not kidding. He was just ripping things right into the gap every time. I think he won like 16-4 and like 18-3 or something like that one time. Like he just blasted me.
Dude, there's no game that I think I've ever played that has a bigger skill gap than that one. Where like if you are a legitimately great MLB The Show player, then like you are on a whole other level. It's not even close.
I'm not there.
No, I mean I'm like average, you know, and being average to me feels pretty good. In that game.
Yeah. I used to play the old 2K baseball games quite a bit, so like I have a basis.
Yeah.
But
Though it feel like it's so much different though now.
well, and Xbox hasn't had baseball for a long time, whatever. So I haven't played a baseball game for probably, I don't know, almost a decade.
Yeah, y'all
So-
are gonna get it next year though.
Yes, we are. Of course, as soon as I buy a PlayStation.
I'm just letting it run out. Taking
Okay.
my L. I'll own it.
27-12.
Accept it. Nice hot L. Sorry to let the fans down. F's in the chat.
I need to get my custom offensive playbook made. Because I like on my franchise, I go full air raid.
Next week we're playing MLB The Show. I'm just gonna say that right.
I can be okay with that. I just need to practice it. I'm gonna grab, and I need to get some cheap ass whiskey, some cheap bulk whiskey,
There you go.
so I can play that game.
It just is like, if you don't really sit there and practice it a lot, then
Yeah,
it's hard. Cause I don't know. That's
What?
I've noticed even playing against the computer. Like once you increase the difficulties, it just like going from veteran to all-star is ridiculous.
yeah. One of the you don't play FIFA, do you?
No, I don't play FIFA. I would get killed in
Man, you should learn. You should play FIFA. FIFA's a
FIFA. Dude,
good time.
I hardly even know the rules of soccer. Let
So
alone how to play FIFA.
you play a video game and it knows the rules for you. You don't even need to figure it out. You just play it until it blows a whistle. Wow.
I've definitely played it before, but I just have never really played.
Chiefs and the Ravens, and we combined for 274 yards of passing. Combined for 274 yards with the Chiefs and the Ravens. We did nothing.
Yeah, no, this was a horrible football
It's
game.
a terrible football game.
A legitimately terrible football game.
I had 322 yards of offense. You had 222. Oh, that's interesting.
You just hit some throws and stuff.
Yeah. That's what happens when you hate Travis Kelce.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, man, it was good talking to you though.
Yeah. One thing we forgot to mention during the thing too, we should have mentioned more, is that next week we're gonna try to be going forward try to be at 8:00 on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Instead of Wednesday. Just happened to work out this week for Wednesday, but we'll come back maybe next week. Let's plan on doing that. We'll discuss the paying players thing.
Yeah.
Do we want to take it? Do the one person takes one side, one person takes the other side?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
I think that's
Which
probably
side do
best.
you want?
I'll take the paying players.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll take the other one. I'll take the not playing player side.
Okay.
So we'll do that. And then
I'm gonna either need to write this down, or you're gonna need to remind me like on Tuesday or Wednesday, because odds are I might not remember.
you gotta start digging numbers.
Yeah. Like I'm one of those people that if I don't write it down, I'm not gonna remember. So
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting too because I'm gonna have like a little note sheet off to the side with my stats and figures, and I'm gonna have to like go back to that between that and the game.
I'm gonna start throwing ideas or things out at you like in the middle of a pitch. The ball's coming at you, and it's like, oh, here's my thing. Try and rebut this.
This podcast is really just a social experiment with us two to see who can focus on a game and a discussion best.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool because there was man, I don't know if you follow the Ringer really, and this was like not this past Halloween, but the Halloween before, where Kevin O'Connor, who's like one of the best basketball writers out there, they put a GoPro on him and they sent him into one of the scariest haunted houses in America, like just somewhere in Los Angeles, I think. And they had an earpiece with them, and they would throw basketball questions at him while he was walking through this super scary haunted house.
Yeah.
And it would be him like trying to talk, justify why like Robert Covington is a great piece for the Philadelphia 76ers, and then someone would jump out and grab him. You know? It's in just like pitch dark, and it was really funny. So yeah, this will
be our own version of. You ever heard of chess boxing? They box around, then in between rounds they play a game of chess, and they box around and they play a game of chess, then they box around, they play a game of chess.
Oh man, those people are way too smart if they're playing chess.
I don't think they play a full game, or they play like an X amount of turns or time or something like that. But like, I have to remember exactly how it goes. But basically, by the time you get to like round 8 or 9, both of them have like black eyes and they're beat the shit out of each other and they're trying to play chess. And it's it's wild.
I would like to know how you ever get into that, but
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
No idea.
It's special kind of crazy, I guess.
Yeah. This will be our own podcast version of chess boxing. So we
Yeah,
have to play,
no kidding.
you have to play video games and try to form a coherent argument.
Works for me, man.
Or you be like me and you like to begin the beginning of this podcast where you're trying to play offense, or I'm trying to play offense and explain an abstract podcast concept at the same time. It takes me 10 minutes to say 3 sentences.
Yeah, I kind of jumped in and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and put this in fewer words.
Yeah. I got distracted because I was trying to run my offense, which takes profound concentration from me.
Yeah, man, it's all good. It's all good.
Because I'm a dummy.
Hopefully the people out there enjoyed it.
Yeah, hopefully we bullshitted enough but we BS enough through enough of that until we actually got on track with the topic.
Right.
So hope everybody enjoyed episode 0 of the currently Untitled podcast with me and Jared. I hope that doesn't end up as being our podcast name.
No, I think we'll figure it out.
We'll figure something out. I want to do that. I wish we could have done the Devil's Advocate, but I think there is some like no-name podcast that has like some like podcast that has like 20 listeners that is called the Devil's Advocate, which is a bummer.
I would like to think we can get more than 20 listeners.
You think so? We just got to swallow the market.
Yeah. yeah.
And they don't, and I looked at the format. They don't even do what we do. Like they don't even like it's not the same thing. Like they just talk about stuff. Like it's just a talk show. It's not even like the Devil's Advocate.
Podcast I'd rather listen to than one that their description is we just talk about stuff.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just riveting stuff. So, anyways, like I said, thank you everybody for listening to episode 0 of Jared and I's currently untitled, soon to be titled podcast. Everybody have a great rest of your week, rest of your night, rest of your week. Go Cyclones.